Have you heard of the retirement strategy that says buy a property every year for the next 20 years? Well, I bet you haven't. We're going to talk about that today and why it makes sense. Stay tuned.
This episode of Keeping It Real is brought to you by Real Geeks. How many homes are you going to sell this year? Do you have the right tools? Is your website turning soft leads into interested buyers? Are you spending money on leads that aren't converting? Well, Real Geeks is your solution. Find out why agents across the country choose Real Geeks as their technology partner. Real Geeks was created by an agent for agents. They pride themselves on delivering a sales and marketing solution so that you can easily generate more business. Their agent websites are fast and built for lead conversion with a smooth search experience for your visitors. Real Geeks also includes an easy-to-use agent CRM. So once a lead signs up on your website, you can track their interest and have great follow-up conversations. Real Geeks is loaded with a ton of marketing tools to nurture your leads and increase brand awareness. Visit realgeeks.com/keeping it real pod and find out why realtors come to Real Geeks to generate more business. Again, visit realgeeks.com/keeping it real pod. And now, onto our show. Today's episode is brought to you by Corded.io. Are you looking for agents to join your brokerage or team? Now, as a real estate recruiter, I can tell you the answer is always yes. But most agents aren't looking to move right now. So how do you know who to contact? Well, what if I were to tell you there's a recruiting and retention tool powered by artificial intelligence that shows you exactly which agents in your local market are looking to leave their brokerage right now and which agents at your own firm are also looking to leave you? Now, I've been recruiting realtors for 15 years and I've hired over 2,000 agents. I can tell you with no exaggeration, this is the tool I've been waiting for. Corded's AI looks for trends across dozens of variables for each agent in your market and shows you which agents they believe are likely to move. Not only does it do that, but Corded's AI went and visited my recruiting website and read everything I offer. So now when I'm recruiting, Corded's AI tells me exactly what to say based on that agent's needs and what my brokerage can offer. It even writes emails for me. I've never seen anything like it, and I use it every single day. Now, if you are looking to grow your brokerage, Corded.io is the best tool out there. Visit Corded.io to schedule a demo. Again, that's Corded.io. And now, onto the show.
Today on the show is a legend. We have Christian Bachelder from The One Brokerage, which is a nationwide lending brokerage. I'm going to tell you more about Christian in a sec. Together with David Green, who, by the way, has been featured on our show, another legend. If you guys aren't familiar with Christian and David, Bigger Pockets is where they became very big celebrities in influencers in the real estate world. They have podcasts and they just absolutely crushed it over there. Bigger Pockets is an online community for real estate investors to sort of congregate and talk and discuss and learn. And it's the number one platform for real estate investors. And these guys were kind of the face of the company, for lack of a better word. And so we are so excited to have Christian on the show. But let me tell you about Christian. Christian co-founded The One Brokerage, deemed the fastest growing broker in the nation in 2021 and 2022, ranked in the top 20 brokerages by funded loan volume. Christian is a UC Berkeley grad. He has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, but hated the industry and wanted to get out of capped earning potential. He got into real estate with the help of a childhood family friend who had some success in the business and discovered he had a knack for connecting with people and adding value to their mindsets, investments, and journeys. He is a licensed real estate agent, insurance, and mortgage broker. Bachelder regularly hosts masterminds, seminars, and webinars with real estate gurus. He teaches the teachers. He is at that level. He teaches people everything from investing principles to how to buy your 1,000th property with a focus on what markets to target, how to find the best loan, how to protect one's investments with insurance, and other forms of asset protection. This guest speaker purchased 15 properties in 12 months last year, employing the same principles he teaches. He created a course for loan officers to enroll in to teach the fundamentals of the sales process, how to become the best advisor possible, how to get the most out of the career path, and tips on succeeding in any market. I want everybody to go check out his brokerage. It is number one, the1brokerage.com. We'll have a link to that in the show notes. Give him an opportunity on your next purchase. He would love to earn your business. Christian, welcome.
Absolutely. I can't ask for much more an introduction. I appreciate all the kind words, and hopefully in the same way we ran our business and kind of the mentality that we approach everything with, hopefully I can bring some value to you, your listeners, and everybody who may be tuning in today.
You guys are legends. You took Bigger Pockets podcast to the very top of the charts, and it's probably still at the top of the charts. It is the number one place people go to learn about real estate investing. Agents and lay people alike. Our audience are agents, and so they want to hear all about what's going on in the lending world. You are kind of in the middle of it. You are right in the smack dab middle of what's going on. And while we always can talk about rates, and people do want to talk about that, I guess, but we really just want to talk about how do we keep our business rolling.
Yeah.
Whatever the rates are doing, we saw that last year, the last two Fed cuts, rates didn't move. Lending rates didn't move with the Fed cuts, which is real interesting. And so we can talk about that as well. But I want to get into your story. Let's learn about you. So tell us about, how did you get into the real estate business?
Yeah, I understand. So, as you shared, I'll kind of start off, graduating from UC Berkeley. I was very fortunate to have a stellar education. My mom slaved away for more days than she needed to make that happen for me, and that's my ultimate appreciation first and foremost. But I made a stupid decision. I went and majored in something I didn't enjoy. Right, I was good at it. I was skilled. I was talented, but I couldn't sit in front of a lab computer all day typing in algorithms of chemical formula and code and everything else. Right. So I dabbled a little bit in the industry. I did some internships, just couldn't find something. And I was raised in maybe some listeners have some adherence to this. I was raised in a house where you went for the sciences and there's not other options, right?
Yeah.
My grandpa was a doctor. My mom's a nurse. My uncle's a surgeon. Pretty much success to me was synonymous with the science industry, healthcare, stuff like that, right?
Sure.
I didn't know you could major in business. That sounds so short-sighted now. I didn't know you could even do that, right? Because my family was so just set in their ways. So after graduating, I kind of realized, the richest person I know owns a gas station. That's kind of weird. That's not what my family taught. I think the doctor should be the richest person I know.
Doctors and lawyers.
Yeah. They should be, right? But then I started really just, going around and asking people. And one of my buddies growing up, he always had a new car when we were growing up. He was, always had the coolest new toy, right? The new cell phone, the new whatever. I wasn't super wealthy growing up, right? For a period of my childhood, I was on food stamps, right? Believe it or not, before my mom got her nursing job. So, I just went and asked him, hey, what do you do? And it turns out he was in real estate. He did some investments that were out of the country. He was Peruvian, so he had some investments in Peru. But he opened up a brokerage in America, right? And real estate and a lending brokerage, helping people find property and finance it. And he was also an insurance broker. And funny, you can kind of see why I decided to be what I did. And he realized that, hey, there's a need in the financial service industry, and he targeted, mainly a Hispanic database, right? So people who couldn't necessarily go into a bank and get, the normal loans. They didn't communicate with the banker very well. They didn't understand, not only a language barrier, but just, kind of the culture, right? They trusted him though. He was kind of like the jefe, right? And so I got to see a very unique perspective. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with being able to understand real estate and understand finances in a way that I never took a finance class in college. I didn't know what an interest rate was. I didn't know really anything. So kind of had a whole, brave new world open up to me. And just like I said, fell in love with it, fell in love with being able to help people find, the new investment or even their first primary residence, helping them get out of renting and start building up some equity and realize homeownership. And then obviously packaging all the other services of assisting with financing and even protecting it via insurance. Right. And going to one place, kind of my dream was what this is kind of coalesced into now. Going to one place that you can get the advice of everywhere, right? You don't have to go to a Farmers or a State Farm and then go to a Remax and then go to a Chase to get a mortgage and then go over here to get a property management company and then go over here to get tax advice. The long-term goal of the one brokerage is to be the one brokerage for everything you need, right? And while we're still working on aspects of it, the property management, the tax prep, all that, our lending really, really, really took off because I think arguably that's one of the biggest needs in the industry, right? Everything's important, but you can't buy anything without financing, right?
Right.
And it's a lot of times it is much more complicated than what you see online, right? And there's a lot of people that say a lot of stuff like they know what they're doing, and it's being in it now for as long as I have, being fortunate enough to work with the types of people, like you said, I've definitely found myself in the position of advising the advisors, right? The gurus and the course providers are usually calling me in to host my portion of their course. And that's not a dig to them at all. That's absolute, appreciation that I have for them and being able to put me in those positions.
Yeah, no, you have a legendary reputation and somebody who is often sought after to get their opinion and their perspective on not just how to be a better loan officer or real estate agent, but also just what's going on in the industry. And right now, I think we were talking about this just before we went on live, which was, we have this inventory issue. We just don't have much. There's not much out there. Part of that, I think, is due to the refinance that happened, the big refinance boom that obviously all of us remember from many years ago. And, we are all locked into these lower interest rates that we, don't want to leave. And also we get to work from home now for a lot of us. So there's that piece of it too. So we have, all of this going on, yet in the last year was the lowest home sales in 30 years, believe it or not. So we have a lot happening. Tell me what you think's going on right now and what you would do.
Yeah, we were chatting a little bit about this before, and it's fun to be able to put this out there now. And just on the kind of number side of what you're saying, where we were all-time lows of inventory and sales. Just in my industry alone, in loan officers, I believe going back to 2021, if you compare the licensed loan officers from then till now, about 80% of them have left the industry. So
yeah, I saw that.
4 out of 5 loan officers that were here during COVID are gone, which is crazy to think about. I mean, to name another industry that in 4 years has an 80% withdrawal from, that's wild, right? But taking that aside, what I think, I have kind of a unique take on this, and I got a little bit of pushback on Bigger Pockets for saying this because it can be quoted as maybe fear mongering. Not how I intend this, but I'll do a little mental exercise with all listeners. Go back to your childhood. Who did you know that owned multiple homes? I didn't know anybody, right? My grandma owned a house. My grandma owned a house. My mom didn't yet when I was a kid. But, I had like an uncle who owned a house, right? Like, people who had long-term jobs, but like, nobody was investing in Florida or investing in the Smokies, or I live in California, so that's like across, the country. Even like going up and buying, maybe I had a friend who owned like a, vacation cabin in Tahoe or Mammoth or Big Bear, something that you go to once or twice a year. People weren't buying like rentals though. Right. And of course it was just much, much fewer and farther between. Right. And everybody that I asked this, most people say, no, yeah, I can't really remember anybody that had like a portfolio when I was a kid. Right.
Sure.
And I think with the surge of accessibility of advice, Bigger Pockets, your show, podcast, talk, just the ease that getting advice can come with now. A lot of people go take a course, right, from some guru, some provider, whatever, right, and learn how to invest in real estate. And they can learn cap rates and NOIs and interest rates and how to invest and what down payments you need and what loan product you need. You're probably hearing from somebody like me in that course discussing different loan products, right? That just wasn't around before, right? If you wanted a loan, you would go to Washington Mutual, right? Which is, those who remember, that was pre-Chase, right? Or you'd go to Bank of America, you go to Wells Fargo, and like that's how you got a mortgage before, right? And most times they didn't like giving you mortgages that were for a house across the country, right? So I think what we're witnessing is a combination of multiple factors. Obviously, the interest rates have a say, of course. That led to the golden handcuffs where people just don't want to get out. People who qualified at 3% just don't qualify for a comparable home at 7%. So they stay put, right? So there's an objective barrier of leaving there that a lot of homeowners are in. On top of that, we have a lack of building. And that's, I think, arguably the most important thing. If any of you guys have built, I've dabbled with it. I've helped a lot of clients with fix and flip loans or ground up construction loans, whatever it is. It is a nightmare to get through the legal loopholes and the city and council and zoning and ordinance and everything you have to go through to build anything, right? That's hard. Obviously, on top of that, the cost, right? Lumber, and with all these tariffs and everything going on now, we get most of our lumber from Canada. It's not getting cheaper. It's not getting cheaper, right? So when you put all these things together, yes, obviously you have a recipe for something that was easy to get prior becoming harder. But when you also combine that with, you're no longer competing with people in your neighborhood. You're competing with the Californian buying a rental property. You're competing with BlackRock. You're competing with these institutional buyers that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago didn't exist. They weren't doing this, right? Even myself, I own 20 something single family homes now. Like, I'm a competitor for people in Florida and Tennessee and North Carolina and Arizona. I don't live there, right? 30 years ago, I would have not been anywhere near them. And now
you wouldn't have had access.
100%, right? I wouldn't have known how to get a property management. I wouldn't have known how to run an Airbnb. I'm a short-term rental investor, for those curious. I wouldn't have known how to finance that. Like, it wouldn't have been an option. And now I think what we're witnessing is a significant consolidation of real estate, not necessarily a crash, not necessarily anything like that. I think, and I'll say my very, kind of edgy thing here that I said on Bigger Pockets. I'm under the assumption that if you don't buy real estate in the next 5 to 10 years, I'm not sure you will be able to after that, as somebody who doesn't own real estate. And that's not fear mongering. That's not me pressure sailing you. That's not me saying, please go do this so I can make a commission. None of that. Even if I wasn't in the industry, I see signs that if they're not turned around, so if there's not laws that go into place that limit these big institutional buyers or, different tax brackets for these types of things, I think they're just going to keep doing it. And I think people like me are going to keep doing it because it is the best investment that I see available to make. I love real estate. I believe in it. I believe it builds generational wealth, and I want my kids to have it. Right. And I think the people doing it are going to continue doing it. And eventually it will reach a breaking point where we're not building as fast as the investors can buy. And that leaves nothing left for your first time home buyer. Right. And that's kind of a frightful time. And you guys hear, things like BlackRock saying you'll own nothing and be happy. I wouldn't be like that. That's not me. Like I'm going to get a piece of the pie. Right. And I recommend, if you guys are sitting on the fence, rates are hard. Qualifying's hard. 100%. Talk to a lender, find a way to do it. Most people can, whether it's getting a cosigner, whether it's qualifying as a household, whether it's selling something else you have. Because if you want to buy real estate, the longer you wait, the harder it's going to get. And I firmly
and right now there's a little bit of an opportunity, although I hate to even use the word opportunity because it technically is, but it's not a super attractive opportunity. But because there's not much inventory, there's not much competition. So in that sense, you might be getting things at a bit of a discount right now. So I think that's what realtors ought to be having conversations with to their clients, really talking about, what do you want to do in the next couple of years? Do you want to move? Now might be the time. Yes, you're going to give up, if you're a current homeowner, you're going to give up that 3% rate, but you're maybe going to get, and you're going to double that rate potentially, or more than double it. But eventually you'll be able to refi that down, but you can maybe even, you'll have a lot less competition when you're out there.
That's the big thing. I mean, if anybody was buying during COVID, I was in that category. You guys remember, you weren't buying anything at asking. You weren't buying anything, with good terms for you. Yes, the interest rates were nice, but you were overpaying for things, right? And now, like you mentioned, there is an opportunity to get stuff, at market value, probably even below market value. Get some seller credit, save on closing costs, buy your rate down. There's much more opportunity for that now. It's still not easy. I'm not trying to create a facade here. It's a difficult time to invest in real estate. I think it's a difficult time just economically for our country right now, right? Kind of no matter what sector you're in. And I think real estate provides a unique opportunity that a lot of other things don't, and it's when you look at, comparing real estate to the stock market or comparing real estate to a 401k, or in almost every scenario, it's hard to make an argument against real estate, right? Especially when you take advantage of low down payment options and, refinancing when the rates get good. I learned this the other day, in most countries, you can't refinance. A lot of people don't know this. So the word mortgage, it means, I believe it means death pact. That's what it means, death or a death pledge. I think it means death pledge. Because the word mortgage was intended to stay there till you die. Now in America, we have a 30-year mortgage, which obviously is until you die. But I was talking to somebody who I think was Spanish or Italian, and he said, "What is refinance? Like, what does that mean?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's whenever it's beneficial for you, you can tell the lender, our deal's off. I want a new one." And he's like, "Can the lender do that to you? Like, what if the rates go up?" I'm like, "I've never been asked that question. No, the lender can't do that to you." He's like, "That's not fair." I'm like, "I've never heard somebody, think about it this way." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess that's not fair for the bank, but it's fair for us." He's like, "Oh my God, I want to invest in America. When we get a loan where I'm from, like, you can't refinance. There's no such thing." And I thought that was so interesting. I'm like, wow, we take the little things like that, we take for granted, right? It's like everybody went and got a 3% rate during COVID. That's because of the way the American financial system set up. You could go spur your last lender that had you at a 6%, and you could go, pair up with one that's at 3 and put yourself in a much better financial position. Right?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there is an opportunity for agents who really, because we know that home value prices have gone up, right? So over the last 5 years, if you sold somebody a home, odds are the value has appreciated to some degree. So they're going to be happy with you. They're going to like you. They're going to be grateful that they made that investment. And you just got to get them over that sort of lending or the lending rate hurdle. But understand that, you date the rate, you marry the house, right? That's always been the, for primary residences for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we kind of, we preach a pretty cool investing strategy that I think a lot of agents would be really, really benefited by knowing this. We preach the one house a year strategy, which is what it sounds like. Obviously, it's one house. You buy one house a year, right? But the idea is it's the replacement to your typical 401k or your typical IRA, right? So the people that are doing, your 3 to 8% 401k and IRA contributions every year, take that aside and you can put that as a 3 to 5% down payment on a new home, and you move primary residences every year. Now the thought process is, oh, well, now I don't have a retirement. Well, if you had your 401k, you tap into it when you're 65, whatever it is, right? You start paying some taxes at that point, which you think taxes are going to be higher or lower when you're 65, probably higher, right? But regardless, even if you're in some tax benefited account, if you're buying a house every year and you do that for the next 15 to 20 years, and you put them on, let's say 30-year notes, and you start this at 35, that means you end when you're 65. Your first year of retirement when you're 65, you have the very first house you bought paid off in full now because you've extended 30 years. You paid off the mortgage. Well, you can go do a cash out refinance, and that's tax-free. And that's a rental property now paying for itself. And what do you think a $500,000 house is worth 30 years from now? $3 million, maybe something crazy, right? So you go cash out $2.5 million in retirement, and boom, you have your first year of income in retirement, $2.5 million tax-free.
Amazing.
And what happens in year 31? Well, now my second house I bought is paid off. You want $2.5 million again, or you want to hold off with your first $2.5 million? Okay, well, let's subsidize your retirement now by financing the real estate that you bought over the course of 30 years, never putting down more than 5%, right? Because you just did a primary residence every year. Now, that's uncomfortable. You have to move a lot. But when you look at that return of millions of dollars a year tax-free in your retirement, I know a lot of people who would take that deal.
I would take that deal.
100%. So getting into real estate investing can be a lot easier than people think. People think they need a huge amount of money. You don't in a lot of cases. You need to be able to qualify for these loans, and that's the hard part right now. So talking to a lender, if an agent's listening to this, have your borrower talk to a lender, have you talk to the lender, talk through solutions that they can come. Oh, we need to season your earnings a little longer. We need to, get a higher paying job. We need to add, your sister or your girlfriend onto here that can qualify with you. Maybe your parents can co-sign. There's always a creative solution, right? Just starting the conversation is what most people never get to the point of, though.
So let's break that process down again, because I'm fascinated by this.
Sure.
So essentially what we're doing is we're moving every year, we're finding a new property that we like. And so walk us through kind of how that works.
Yeah. So let's just say we have a household income of $100,000 a year, right? Two people making 50K, pretty average, right? So let's say that those people would be, I think most people put about 15% into retirement. They try, right? So 15 grand is going into retirement. I'm saying instead of that,
yeah,
if you took 15 grand that first year, you've worked 1 year, good job, you've saved, incredible. Take 15 grand and put 3% down on a new primary residence. That's $500,000 property. That will buy you a starter home in most markets in America. If you're in San Francisco, it's not, but you're also probably 100 grand. You're probably not making in San Francisco. So it scales with the area, right? You go put 3% down for your first home. You buy a property. You try to flaunt that mortgage. You try to get comfortable with the payments. It's probably more than you're going to pay in rent right now, but that's what we got. Okay. The second year, that $500,000 property, maybe it's worth 510 or 520 now, right? There's been some amount of appreciation. Great. Leave it alone. You now move with your next $15,000 that you made. Maybe you got a little bit of a raise at work. Set that money aside. Let's say we have 20,000. In year 2, we're buying a new house, leaving our old one and converting it to a rental property. You can think of this intelligently. Maybe you target a multifamily, maybe you target a condo, something that can rent for close to what the mortgage is, right? Even if it's a small loss, that's okay. So in year 2 now, you have one property that's basically cash flow neutral, and you have your new property that you just moved into. And you put a grand total of 15 and let's call it 20, $35,000 down, and you bought $1 million of real estate. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think $50,000 could buy me $1 million in real estate. That sounds incredible. Cool. And now you copy and paste. And if you do that every year, your rents are going up. If ever a COVID comes again, you take your entire portfolio and refinance it down. All the 7% rates now turn into 4s or 5s, right? And you keep that portfolio and you just keep paying that mortgage, keep paying it, keep paying it, keep paying it, keep paying it. Remember, I took away your retirement, so you don't have that, right? So at some point, you're going to want to cash out of your investments. If you were in stocks, that means you're selling the stock. If it was retirement, that means you're withdrawing and you're paying whatever fees or taxes or deferred that you have at that point. In real estate, that means you're leveraging or selling. 30 years down the line, we follow the same trajectory. The first property we bought now is 100% paid off. We leverage it, or you sell it. You can sell a property every year in your retirement if you want. Then you get the full equity, right? And you guys can imagine if you track back here, what 30 years ago would have been, what, 95?
Mm-hmm.
What could you buy houses for in your area in 1995?
300,000.
Probably, yeah, I'd say even less than that. I mean, I know some people were buying my grandma bought her house for $40,000, right?
Wow,
it's
amazing.
worth like $3 million now. Granted, she was on like a dirt road that's now all been developed. So that's a unique one, but sure, a couple $100,000, right? Those properties aren't worth that now. And you put 5% down of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, and now you're sitting on $2 million in equity in your retirement, and you did that for 30 years. There's not a way that fails. Even if one of those properties, like you have to evict somebody and you're way cash flow negative, once you start building it up, they're supporting each other, right? Like you're going to be okay, right? And eventually you can start cutting into the money that you're paying on rent anyway. So like your primary residence is always going to be an expense. You can build it up to the point where your rentals cover your primary. You start living for free. That's where you get into multifamily and house hacking, depending on how uncomfortable you want to be. But the mindset is still replace what I think is one of the biggest cons in America is the 401k with something that actually puts you ahead. Right.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Makes a ton of sense. And my mind is spinning because I need to start building up my portfolio as well. Because you're absolutely right. You know, markets go up and down. Obviously, stock market does raise over time. You know, if we think the average 401k is probably going to average, I don't know, 7 to 9% a year over time per year. It's not bad, pretty decent, double your money every 10 years or so. That's good investment, but you're also really at the mercy of whatever is happening at that time when you need that money.
100%.
And the idea of building a home portfolio or investment portfolio of real estate is particularly interesting because we see the trends of home buying trends have gone down, right? We're seeing less younger people in particular.
Yeah.
They're buying homes later. I think the average first-time home buyer last year was 38 years old, and
I
that
believe
was
it.
up from like 35 the year before. So people are buying homes later. They are renting a lot longer. So this is a huge opportunity. I just think people also, because of I think it's the work from home thing that's been so much of the catalyst for this, because people can be a little bit more nomadic. They can go, they can go from here to there, and we're all connected with technology. So there's this ability to, like, I'll live here for a little while, then I'll live there for a little while, and I'll just kind of sprint across the country renting. And there's a lot of advantages to renting too, which is you get better stuff usually.
Yeah,
you get
100%.
nice stuff.
I'm a weird example of this. I don't own where I currently. You guys probably tell my background here. I'm in an apartment. I have a portfolio of 20 plus properties, and I don't own where I live personally because I'm exactly like you said. I travel a lot. I like to get around. I don't like having a big mortgage when I'm not there. I get to buy new stuff every year. A lot of times my places come furnished, right? I didn't buy this furniture behind me, right? It came with the apartment. So I live very lightly, right? Now that's not the right move for everybody, right?
Sure.
Most people who are building a family and, building a relationship, they want a place that they can call home base. But if you can fit into that category where, you can supremely, I'm paying a 10th here what I would pay for a house in my area, right? And I still get to live all my family and friends. I still get all the cool amenities of living in sunny SoCal. And I'm paying less than about $2,400 a month in rent in this place. That if I was owning a property, same thing with 3 bedrooms and in a backyard, I'm paying $8-9 grand a month in a mortgage, right?
Crazy.
And that money instead is going to my investments. I'm practicing what I preach. I'm doing the same thing where I'm buying rentals every year, right? And my goal is in 30, 35, 40 years, whenever I finally decide to call it quits, there's going to be a very good opportunity there to leverage, subsidize my retirement, and ultimately have a really cool thing to pass down to whoever comes after me, right?
Yeah, I think agents who are not sort of thinking about the strategy as a education piece to bring to your clients, you're really missing an opportunity here, because you can just crunch the numbers. Heck, just go to ChatGPT and ask them to explain this to you. ChatGPT will explain it to you very effectively as well. And you can even practice your pitch with ChatGPT as well.
That's true.
But the idea is that, people are always looking for investment opportunities. The market's obviously great. Financial advisors can handle all of that stuff. But you now have this opportunity to bring a second sort of stream of income. And also too, 401ks do not provide a steady stream of income along the way. There's some tax benefits, of course, on the way out,
sure,
or along the way and on the way out. But I like the idea of having my money work for me today. And so, there's this thing that, it's really funny. Like, we have to live somewhere. We all have to live somewhere.
That's right.
So you're either going to be renting or buying. Everyone's always going to be renting or buying. And there's a trend towards more renting. Now, what does that mean for the real estate agent industry? I don't know. I hope it continues to flourish, and I guess we'll see. But you want to obviously bring these opportunities to your clients because they're going to learn about it anyway.
Yeah.
And to be the person that does it. And tell us about your brokerage. Why did you build your own brokerage?
Yeah, good question. Really, so I actually started out as a real estate agent. Did that for quite a while, and then I realized I was sending referrals to, a lender that wasn't doing a good job. So I said, okay, let me see how hard that is, right? Let's see what that's about. Started a mortgage brokerage. After that, realized, hey, there's insurance on the other side of that, and in the same format that my quote unquote mentor had set up for me when I started. I said, hey, I can do all this. This makes sense. Now I'm solely focused on the lending aspect. But I started it because once again, there was a need, right? When I would talk to people, showing them houses, doing whatever, they wouldn't know how to discuss how do I budget this? What is my monthly payment going to be? What's my interest rate? What if can I refinance in the future? What if I want to add an ADU? What would the rental income be for that? And there were just so many questions that I saw such an opportunity there to answer, that I honestly became the brokerage, the roles that I have today, because I was curious. Like, I was going and seeking out those answers, and as I found them, I wanted to turn around and give them to customers, right? So really, I became a mortgage broker because I was getting mortgages, right? I was starting to get interested in buying property, and I was fascinated by the industry, and I thought there was a supreme lack in what was available, whether it was online or in the community or just what I saw, with my family, right? My family didn't know, right? They thought, oh, you go to Chase to get a loan. Well, Chase only does, primary
Chase
residence
loans.
and very clean cut investment loans. And I would hear, I would listen to Bigger Pockets before I was on it. And I used to say, like, Howard, these guys aren't getting loans at Chase. Chase wouldn't give David Green a loan. He's got 85 single family homes in Jacksonville. He's way past the conventional loan limit, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I started to realize there's a whole wonderful world right behind the scenes of lending that once I started realizing was there, I couldn't help but share it, right?
Yeah, it's so great, and we're so excited to have you on the show, and we really want to bring this to our audience to think about, not just for yourself, but obviously for your clients. Like, this is a real opportunity for them to build equity, build retirement. And I'm excited about it because I need to do this as well. I do not always have as much confidence in the stock market as I do. Well, number one, I'm not picking individual stocks. I stopped doing that a million years ago. But I just, I have no control over that. I have literally no control over what happens to my investments. And I am diversified in the stock market, like all of us probably are, and that's good. And we should also have other streams of income too. So this is a great opportunity to bring to your home buyers, even if they're just primary resident people and they don't want to move. But okay, hey, maybe consider saving a little bit more, investing in property, and just kind of running the numbers. And somebody like Christian can actually help you on the lending side of it. He can also explain how it works.
And I jump in on intro calls with realtors and their clients all the time. Like, all the time. I don't just have to talk to your agent. I don't just have to talk to you. Let's all get together. We'll plan out a plan of attack together, right? Like, is this possible in the market you're searching in, right? The agent can answer that better than I can, right? Like, I'm not a master we're a nationwide lender. I'm not a master in every zip code in America, but I can tell you what the borrower can qualify for, and then you can kind of guide them to where that will work, right?
Yeah, I love that. And the onebrokerage.com is where you go to learn all about Christian and everything that they offer for real estate investments, also primary residence as well. They're licensed and all over, they can do loans all over the country. So definitely reach out to them. They are amazing. They're fantastic. And you also follow Christian on Instagram. It's _1_broker. So the one broker with 2 underscores there. I will have a link to both of those in the show notes. But do us a favor, check out his website, check out his lending, talk to him, have him educate you so that you can educate your clients and keep your business rolling. Because again, if Christian is right and the real estate market continues to get gobbled up by institutional investors over the years, which we see no sign of that slowing down, we are going to have a shortage, right? We're going to have problems. We're going to have issues. And so you want to start investing as quickly as possible, and certainly making at least the pitch or the educational pitch to your clients and yourself. Have this conversation. It's really fun. It's exciting. And you don't also have to get those 2 a.m. phone calls as a property manager. There are solutions to that as well. So you don't have to worry about every part of that, because obviously there's lots of services that can support that. But yeah, Christian, we're going to continue to obviously have you on every month. We're going to talk about this. We're going to educate our audience. And guys, bring us your questions. Let us know what you'd like Christian to talk about, in particular around investing, around lending. What are the creative strategies that are working for him and his clients? We want to hear from you. What are your clients asking you guys about? We will answer those on this show. So as always, I want everybody to support Christian. Go to theonebrokerage.com. Also, please tell a friend about this podcast. Every real estate agent in the country who is every real estate agent in the country should have at least awareness that this podcast exists. So think of one other agent in your office and just shoot them a link over to our website, which is keepingitrealpod.com, or any podcast app. We're of course everywhere. Just search for Keeping It Real, look for DJ Paris, that's me, and hit that subscribe button. And also please leave us a review. That's the best way you can help us get in front of more people. So let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what we can do to improve. We appreciate you. Christian, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
You're super fun, and we will see everybody on the next episode.
Appreciate you having me.